You're sitting in the school board meeting and the girls under 13 side has been given less of a travel budget than the boys. It's the same competition, same distance, smaller number, and you're sitting in the board meeting and the agenda's already somehow slid right past it. You sit there, you bring it back, you bring everyone's attention to the two figures, and stays another 45 minutes after everyone's started checking their phones, making sure that you do the follow-up, put the comparison out, make sure it can't be argued with, and make sure it's reversed. This same woman, 3 days later in her business, school holidays have started, her team's all booked their leave, and good on them. She signed it off gladly. And she decided she'll just keep things ticking over across the break. Do the emails, clear the inbox, take the urgent calls, be the one still on so everyone else can be properly off. This woman will fight to the wall so some teens and tweens get a fair go. And yet she hands herself the one deal she would never let anyone she loves accept. I want to talk about fairness today, and I want to talk about it everywhere in your business, not just in the bank account. Because here is what is true of you and almost every woman that I have worked with in business, is that you are extraordinary at fairness. You walk into any room and find the unfair thing about it in 4 seconds flat. The kid getting a worse deal for the same chores, the employee who's carrying more than their fair load over the rest of your team, the supplier who got squeezed so much it didn't work, the friend in your group that's always been talked over. You see it in a moment and you never ever let it stand. You are the biggest advocate of fairness for everyone in every part of your life, which then makes sense that you've built this fairness into everything you run. So at home with the kids doing their chores, they're treated even-handedly. You're a bit pedantic about it, if anything. Your employees all get paid properly and on time, even if the month was really tight. And your clients, your customers, they get more than they paid for every single time. The community thing you run is scrupulously fair because you made it that way. And then there's this one person that this fairness standard never reaches. If you just look at weekends, school holidays, sick days, because money, when we talk about like how much everyone gets paid, it gets all the attention. And this one's a bit sneaky, it hides. Everyone around you always gets to be properly off. You would never think to call your employee on her holiday and ask her to do something. You make sure that they actually get to be off properly. And you're still the one half working through the holiday. You are the one who hasn't taken a real break in way longer than you want to admit out loud. And you're the one who calls being permanently on call just how it is. Nobody else in your business would never, ever be allowed to be stuck with that deal. And you wouldn't tolerate it for a second if it was happening to your sister or your friend or even one of your customers or your clients. If you look at the workload, when something falls and becomes a big job, who's going to catch it? Who's going to pick up the extra load? Might be an extra shift. There's a gap in the roster. Who fills it? When it's nobody's job because it's not being assigned anywhere because of a system or a standard problem, whose job does it always become? It's always yours. You've designed a fair distribution of work for everybody else except the person at the centre of it all, the person that this wholly relies on. Then there's the money. You are taking your pay as a residual, the bit that is left, if anything is left, after everyone else has been looked after. You take it last. You take it least. and you call it responsible. If you asked your team members to pay to come to work, they would look at you like you'd gone crazy. Yet the number of women I talk to that are not just paying for themselves to come to work, but for their employees to come to work is madness. What do I mean by that? One of the numbers I get people to look at is profit per employee. And so if there's you and 3 other people in your business, there's 4 employees in the business. And after everyone's been paid, including you, a fair market wage for your work that is being done, we then divide the profit by the number of employees each month and have a look at that number. And more often than not, once we've put that market wage in for the work that you're doing, that number's a negative, which means you are effectively paying to come to work. And you're effectively paying your employees to come to work as well. Now, if I said to you there's a gap, let's say $1,000 a month, so each of your 3 employees need to pay you $250 for that month to come to work, you'd look at me like I'd gone crazy. Yet that's the exact reality you find yourself in if you're not paying yourself a market salary and making a profit. It just wouldn't happen anywhere else. What's really interesting is that you weren't born thinking that you getting less than was the right way to do things. I don't think you ever looked and thought, oh, me not getting what I deserve is okay. You get trained into it over time. There's a whole set of rules about what a good woman does, what a good boss does. And sometimes it's not even rules, it's you trying to be not what someone else was. If you've had a boss that didn't do those things, you've tried to be the opposite of it. They didn't give you proper leave, or they didn't allow sick leave when the kids were sick. You've done your very best to be the opposite of that. Somehow you've created this rule in your own business that you go last, and you should be grateful for it. But what's really interesting is when this deal is one you're handing yourself, you don't register it as unfair at all. You can sniff out an unfair deal for everybody else at 1,000 paces, and you're living in your own unfair deal for yourself, and you haven't even registered it yet. It registers as humble, as good, as what business owners do, as what mothers do. The problem here is that you've got this fairness standard with one empty chair. And it's the chair with your name on it. It means that you don't need to learn fairness. You got that down to a fine art. You've got more than anyone I know. The work is figuring out how what you do naturally for everyone else, for everyone you love, is to flip it and do it for the woman who runs the place. You need fair pay, you need fair rest, and a fair share of the load. And the right to be properly off when everyone else is off, instead of being the one who makes everyone else's leave possible at the cost of your own. You would fight to the absolute wall for anyone else that wasn't getting that standard of fair. Today, I really want to bring attention to the fact that you're not fighting for yourself. If you've noticed today that the fairness standard that you hold in your business and your life stops right before it enters your world, then today's the day you want to start noticing. And today's the day that you want to start fighting for it for yourself as hard as you fight for it for everyone else. This one's really common. I made sure everyone on my team got their leave, got paid on time, and is well looked after their well-being. And I haven't had a proper week off in 2 years, and I pay myself less than my own contractor. How did I let it happen? The thing is, you don't just let it happen. And I think when you word it like that, you're pointing all the fingers at yourself and blaming yourself. It's not about that you let it happen or you did it to yourself. You just defaulted to it. You never looked at the standards you were holding for other people and thought about how it would apply for yourself. Because we're looking out into the world and how that looks for everyone else. And because we're constantly working in that 3D environment that's outside of us, we often don't look in the mirror to reflect our own standards back on ourselves. When you're building these standards and creating the rosters and looking for leave and making sure the work's being loaded, just like when we talk about capacity planning, when I sit down with women like you, often you're not even in there. It's the same with this fairness standard. You just have never looked to see where you sit in it. Because you never deliberately put yourself in it. You never deliberately go, I need holidays and sick days and pay like everyone else. The default just carries on running like that. A default where you haven't deliberately decided anything, where it's just happened, will just run that way forever. These default standards that we set never reset until we actually stop them. If you're feeling icky about this, and the fact that you've asked the question tells me that you probably are, maybe feeling guilty that you didn't spot it, or that maybe feeling stupid because you didn't make it work for you, it's really important not to buy into any of that. All that's happening is that fairness radar that you have got finally honed has finally turned around to look at you, and that feeling you've got is, oh, it doesn't exist here. It's probably the most useful thing that's happened so far. I want you to just be grateful in the moment that you spotted it. The first thing you want to do is start looking for the places where you're accepting a deal that you wouldn't allow for someone else, where you are accepting a workload, leave, pay that you would not let your daughter accept. I say daughter because that's what I have. But if you have a son, if you want to let your son accept it, if you want to let your friend accept it, whenever you spot these places where you've got these situations where you're like, the people I love, that would not be okay, take a note of it. As you work your way through it, you're going to start finding these places and we go, okay, how do I change it over time? Remembering that you've been doing this for a little while, changing from everybody else getting paid first and getting more leave, etc., is going to take a little while to tweak and adjust it. Don't feel like you need to flip it all at once. There's probably some other work to do in here as well. I was having a conversation today with a couple in business around you deeply understand the mechanics of your business, the sales, the expenses, and the profit. Sometimes, more often than I would like to see, employees don't comprehend the different mechanics in running a business versus getting a wage. What do I mean by that? Your employees and your contractors, for the most part, get to keep everything that falls into their bank account. They budget with that. When they look at your business, they do exactly the same thing. They used to, everything that comes in is budgeted to spend. But your business doesn't work like that. The only way for it to be sustainable is if after that money comes in, there's some left over to make this work. Until your team start to understand that and they understand how their role in the business is connected to the piece that is left over, because that's the bit that matters if you're to have a business, because it needs to be profitable. If they don't understand how their roles are connected, they're never going to be able to help you with that. Don't expect to change it like that because you've created the standard over time. Find one spot where the standard wouldn't be okay for someone else and just tweak that one standard. If you've got a team, and in this case, it sounds like you do, then you want to make sure that if you have employees or contractors, that they have a clear understanding of how the role that they hold inside your business is connected to the success of the business, which is ultimately their profitability. Be very careful about connecting people just to a revenue number or just to a day-to-day job, the busy work, because that's when you will find them diving into the busy work without looking at the bigger picture. A really common one, the profitability and the sustainability of the business becomes someone else's problem. But if they understand profit per employee, when you show that number to them, they're really going to start to shift. Why? Because if you ask them to pay $250 this month to come to work, they would all look at you in horror and tell you not a chance. So you say, great, yeah, that's what I'm doing in this business for all of you. How are we going to fix that? Because that's how we make sure this business is sustainable going forward. And when they can see it really clearly like that, they'll start to flip and start to shift. Not only that, you will start to see just how unfair the standard you're holding for yourself is. One thing this week, just notice. Pick one setup, one arrangement in your business or your home where everyone gets fair except for you. It could be days off, it could be dishes, it could be pay, it could be the mental load, any of it. Just see it so clearly this week so you can not unsee it, so you can't forget about it. You don't have to go changing it just yet, you just have to catch it. Because once we see it so clearly that you can't ignore it anymore, then we can start to move it. So you don't have to change it, you just have to catch it first. Next week we're going to stay close to this one because there's a particular type of tired that has nothing to do with how hard you're working. It's the tired that comes from saying yes so many times you forgot it was even a choice. If you build exactly the life you wanted and feel trapped inside it, this one's going to be for you. Till next time, stay Moxie.